In this video, we're going to go into some of the steps that you can take to do a mass rollup in your model. I'll be using MagicDraw version 19 with Cameo Systems Modeler or Cameo Simulation Toolkit, which makes this Cameo Systems Modeler. So the first thing we're going to do is create a block diagram. And we'll do a simple architecture. So a SysML block definition diagram. And let's say you have a system level block with a few subsystems. And those subsystems each have a few components that you would like to roll up. So for subsystem A, let's say we have a component 1 and a component 2. And subsystem B has a few components as well. All right, at this point, what you can do is apply a roll-up pattern. So if you right-click on the block that you would like all of this to roll up to, you can go to Tools and then Apply Roll-Up Pattern. If you notice here, you have a mass roll-up pattern that you can apply. You could create value properties if you'd like, but you don't have to. Well, let's do that just to see what it does. So if you notice now, each of these has a mass and a total mass. And when we do a simulation on this, it will roll up these values and add them up. The one thing I want to go into, however, is how you can customize this, because as you see here, all of your value properties are typed as real numbers, which works just fine. However, you might want to display the actual units that you'd be using for that, such as kilograms. So to do that, I'm going to unapply this rollup pattern and show you how you can customize one of these rollup patterns with your own value types. So if you go back to Tools, you can remove the rollup pattern, and we'll go back to how it was. So the rollup pattern is actually stored as an auxiliary resource in your containment tree. So if you go up to this gear options, gear up here at the top, you can go to Show Auxiliary Resources. And I'll do a search for that. So we'll do Mass Rollup. And if you uncheck the Apply Filter option, you have this block that's located in your MagicDraw customization for SysML. So this block here is the rollup pattern that has a few value properties and a parametric associated with it that allows for the recursive rollup to happen. But the total constraint goes along with that. So what you should do is highlight and copy both of these. So I'll just hold Control, and now you can go to Copy. And let's just go ahead and uncheck Show Auxiliary Resources. And now I'll create a new package in the model to store those in. And we'll call it the Mass Rollup. So now I'm just going to hit Control V on this, and now we've pasted it in. Now if I edit these, it will not affect the other that I copied that location from. So what I'm going to do is just rename this one, the block here. Actually, we can drag those out onto the block diagram so you can see what's happening in there. But let's call this one Mass Rollup Pattern in kilograms. All right. And then just so you can see this, we'll drag this out here to your block diagram and the constraint with it. Now, what you can do is actually retype these. Instead of using real numbers, you can give them whichever type of units you'd like. So let's say the mass here, we'll go to type and we'll search for kilograms. And we'll do mass kilograms. And same thing for total mass. Use mass kilograms, and then the same thing for your constraint. So for the child, we will do kilograms. Let's see, I'm not sure if that was exactly the one we wanted. Let's try that again. Do you believe it was? Yep. Okay, for the parent and the total, we'll do the same thing. All right, now you've customized that's where all of the units that get rolled up will be in kilograms. And we can go ahead and do a soft delete on these to remove them from your block diagram. But what I'd like to do here is also show you the parametric that's happening behind this. So what you see here is now you have this constraint that does total equals parent plus the sum times the child, and each of these are now typed in kilograms, and that's what you'd like. So if we go back to here, we can just do a soft delete on these. I'm just clicking on them and hitting delete instead of deleting them from the containment tree, so they still exist here. So now when we go back and reapply this mass rollup pattern, what you'll see is you have another one to choose from that will be the one that you customized. So we go to apply rollup pattern, and this is the one we used before, and this is the one that is now customized to have kilograms as the type. And we can say create value properties and redefine. All right, and now we'll do a simulation on this, because you could go in and actually add the default values for these if you'd like here, but I'll show you how you can do that in an instance table. So we right click, go to simulation and run. And obviously we don't have anything adding up now because we don't have any values. So let's go ahead and export this system block that we simulated to a new instance. So this exports to a new instance, and same thing with this. So now we already have a roll-up pattern package that we can use. So we'll go ahead and just save it to that and say OK. And now I'm just going to get rid of the simulation dialog altogether. And if you look here, that is the roll-up that you just did, but we're going to display that in an instance table. So in the Mass Rollup package, you can create a diagram and search for an instance table. And then for the classifier, you want to use the Mass Rollup pattern that you customized. So we can drag that in as the classifier. And then for the scope, you can use the package that contains your Mass Rollup. And as you see now, there's nothing but zeros. One thing that you do want to make sure you have set properly in order to have the roll-up pattern work is in your options menu, you want to make sure that when you run simulations, any empty values use zeros. So if you go to options and then go to environment and down here to simulation, you want to make sure that you initialize empty values to 0. And that a lot of times is defaulted to false, so you want to make sure that you have that set to true. And then one other good thing to do is go to your options here and go to the display mode and use a compact tree. And what that will do is it'll kind of give you a little bit of your system's hierarchy inside of the table that you can expand, which is a nice way if you want to just view things that have been rolled up, or if you want to expand them out to see what you actually have down there. So what we'll do now is add some mass for each of these components. So let's say that subsystem B component 4 is 20 kilograms. We'll say this one's 20. And we're not going to add a mass for the subsystem because these are going to roll up to the subsystems. So we'll say that these components each have 30. All right, and at this point, what you want to do is highlight all of these rows. So you just highlight these here, and in version 19 of Cameo Systems Modeler, you have two different options. You can either evaluate the selected rows, or you can run selected rows with behaviors, and you want to use run selected rows with behaviors. If you do not do that, it probably will not roll up properly. So I recommend using run selected rows with behaviors. We'll go ahead and do that now. And there we go. So we have 20, 20, that's 40, and then plus 60 gives us 100 for the system. And if you collapse these back, you can see that the rollup for subsystem B was 40, for subsystem A was 60, and then the system's mass is 100 kilograms. If you'd like, you can now save those to the default values. So if you highlight all these and right click, you can say save to default values, I believe. It's not giving me the option here. Oh, there you go, tools, save to default values, because if you look back at your model right now, we still don't have any default values saved. So we can go back to this, again, highlight all these rows, tools, say save to default values, and we'll say save derived property values, okay. And then when we look back at our model, you actually have these values that are now showing in your blocks. And that is how you can do a mass rollup in Cameo Systems Modeler.